Hello and welcome. I'm Adrian Gregan, and I am finally here with the poll results for the Modern Masterpiece poll, the very first poll on my channel, and also the poll to decide what show will replace JJK after I finish season 3, which is, I'm gonna make a bet and say it'll be next week. I know I've been pushing that goalpost back quite a bit, but I think we're finally at the end here. So, yeah, this is the poll. I finally got all the data accumulated and I've got everything together. So we're going to go through it together. I'm going to show you who won, how everything rated, and just what people thought about each of the shows through their votes. So for those of you who are for some reason unfamiliar with this is my first ever poll, and this is basically the structure of which I went through the poll. Basically, everyone went through a Google survey of each of the shows, and you got to vote it on a scale of 1 to 5. The 1 and 2 are both taking away votes. They're both negative votes on that show. And 3, 4, and 5 are progressively increased votes. 3 being 1 vote, 5 being 3 votes, as you can see here. So we're just going to go through it in the order that it was presented in the poll. The first one up here is Dandadan. Now, Dandadan did pretty good. I was going to say surprisingly, but it's really not. It's a very highly rated show, and it rated just as such. Now, I was surprised there weren't very many 5s here, and I think that's what ended up holding it back a little bit, was how many people were just kind of in the middle for it. It's overwhelmingly positive, as you can see here. 51 responses, and only 17 of them were negative. And even the negatives, one of them is like meh. So it has a very large and positive reception. Not enough negativity to really drag it down, but also lacking the sheer number of people who desperately want to watch it as a 5 to really elevate it. Which makes sense, because I've heard it's a really, really good show. But I think compared to some of its competition here, people aren't as passionate about it as they are for some other shows. Regardless, this is a really good showing, so I think its chances in the future are quite good. So, moving on to the next one, we've got Gachiyakuta. This is the show that I probably know the least about on this poll, other than Takupi's Original Sin. It seems to be quite the popular shonen, not quite as popular as Dandadan, but very well loved, and you can see it in these results. Also 51 responses, but far more 5s on it, so far more people who are really passionate about wanting to see it here. And yet all the rest of them are kind of balanced. There's also a lot more people who don't want to see it, which is kind of interesting. So it seems like this one is getting people out to the polls, even though they both have technically the same amount of votes. This one is ironically more balanced, and yet more weight put onto either extreme. So it ended up with 41, so already currently Dandadan is in the lead, with Gachiyakuta following close behind. Now, for the next one, we've got Mushoku Tensei. And upon seeing this chart, I think it kind of explains itself. And I think it also goes to show why this is probably the most interesting show for me, at least as a creator looking at the audience, because as you can tell, this one is overwhelmingly negative, which is really interesting. Interesting, and yet not all that surprising, is it? There's a lot of people who don't like it because it's a very divisive show. And it's probably the show I know the most about when it comes to all the other ones. I haven't seen any of the episodes of it. However, I've seen clips and I've seen how a lot of people think about certain things about it. It is kind of a shame, though, that it voted so low, because I am personally quite interested in it. I know it's a really cool concept of like going through this main character's life in this isekai world, but I know there's a lot of like problematic stuff and a lot of divisive things in it that would make it interesting to discuss, but also would make people not want to see it on here, especially I suppose compared to the competition. So as a result of this overwhelmingly negative reception, it's quite amusing that this is the first and only show on this poll that has a negative score on it, totaling out to a -5. By the way, apologies for my voice, a little bit tired, and I think allergies yesterday. I was sneezing my freaking heart out, so I think my throat's a little bit tired. But I've been holding out on this long enough, so I figured I had to get to it. So, next up, we've got Takupi's Original Sin, which is something I was surprised to see on the poll in the first place. It's not really something I'd heard of much. I'd seen the name around, but compared to the other 4, it's far less prevalent, I would say. And it seems like it's quite the distribution curve here. 4 and 5 are even a little bit, so it kind of ruins it. But other than that, it's quite the nice bell curve on here. So there's a lot of people who are just kind of neutral about it, neutral positive, which is pretty interesting. I figured a show like this that seems to be a little bit more niche would have a little bit more people who don't want to watch it, but I guess neutrality is the name of the game here. Perhaps people have watched this and like it, but they want to see me react to other things. Regardless, I think it's interesting, and 9 votes on the positive, on the 2 higher positives, is a little bit above average, so that's also noteworthy. Overall, a kind of interesting showing in how, I suppose, uninteresting it is in the bell curve. I think it's the only one with a curve quite like this. Finally, after this is the one we've all been waiting for, and I'm sure it's the one that a lot of you are most excited to see the results on, so I'm not going to waste your time, and we're going to get into the final one. Quite appropriately, the last show on this poll is also the one that had the most interesting chart on it. Vinland Saga. Now, if you've been paying attention to the numbers, I don't need to hold you in suspense anymore as to who the winner of this poll is. And it's quite amusing that it was the last one in the poll, because for those of you who weren't paying attention, 98 is almost double the second place winner. So needless to say, this was a landslide victory. And even without me showing the numbers over the actual shows, just looking at the chart, I think this is the only one with double digits in the 5s, and it's 24. That is insane. A total of 8 negative votes. The rest are at least neutral and at most fully positive. So yeah, Vinland Saga won with a complete landslide. It's complete Ronald Reagan zone, absolute JFK energy. It was just not even a comparison, not even close. So by nearly double the points as all the ones before it, except for Mushoku Tensei, which it completely blew out of the water. The next show that I will officially be watching on my channel as soon as I finish JJK is Vinland Saga, as part of the Modern Masterpiece poll. Now, if you're curious, the other poll that I'm going to be playing once I get near the end of Freerun Season 2 will be the Hinwitty poll, the How Have I Not Watched This Yet? And those will be completely different shows that are much older, from like early 2000s around there, and maybe mid 2000s, but this is mainly for shows that are like 2010s and beyond, mid to late 2010s and beyond, and that are pretty much masterpiece worthy. And these are, as you can see, the results. Vinland Saga completely crushed it. And I'm not surprised. I think out of the people and the sentiment I've heard from people talking about the poll and asking about it, the vast majority of them, if not all of them, have brought up that they wanted to see Vinland Saga win. So I think it's a very deserved victory. As somebody who has a bachelor's in history himself, though admittedly I don't know much about Nordic cultures or about like Vikings, but I do love history, and I try to approach a lot of my studies and a lot of my analyses through a historical lens as well. So this is going to be a really interesting show for me, I think, and I don't know too much about it. I'll go more over that once I get into episode 1, and I tell you like everything I know about it. But sure enough, true to the one of the biggest memes of Vinland Saga Season 2, according to this poll, it truly seems like this show has no enemies. But yeah, that's the Modern Masterpiece poll, my very first poll that will replace JJK. These little animations, I meant to get rid of them because I copied them from my top 5 Mal list. The final stream will be tomorrow, so look forward to that if you're interested, but I was too lazy to get rid of them, so here they are. So basically, in last place, just to go over one last time, is Mushoku Tensei with the only negative points. And then fourth place is Gachiakuta. Third place is Takopi's Original Sin. Second place, with quite a strong lead, is Dandadan. And first place, with an absolute landslide victory, is Vinland Saga. So these are the results of the poll. I know this poll's been like 4 months in the making because so much has been happening this year. But I'm nearly at the end of JJK Season 3, which means once I'm done with that, I'll probably give it like a week's rest before I start Vinland Saga. And then we'll just see how it goes from there. I'll obviously keep watching Freerun eventually as I get near the end of Season 2, or probably once I get like halfway through Season 2, or maybe even like a few episodes in, I will start getting the poll ready for the Hinwitty. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating in this poll. If you want to participate in the next one, then go ahead and subscribe to be notified when that drops. And as you can see here, if you join Patreon, there are bonus votes for it. You can see that on Patreon, or I'll link in the note card somewhere up here. There we go, right around up here. Right around up here will be the card that has my video about my description of Patreon and about bonus votes on polls and what you get through Patreon. So check that out if you're interested. I thought it wouldn't really make much of a difference, especially since only like one or two people, a handful of people who are on my Patreon actually exercise the right to bonus votes. But it actually did make a difference. So yeah, if you want to make that difference, go ahead, join Patreon if you're interested. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and wherever I see you next, have a lovely rest of your day.